Let's talk about the time Spider-Man ended up working for the mob. So our story actually begins all the way back in Las Vegas in 1957, where the mafia families at the time were all competing for control of Vegas, so they decided to call a meeting of the bosses. It was to be 7 bosses with their 7 lieutenants, all unarmed, all having a civil conversation. But see, the boss Pirelli had just found out that his lieutenant was actually working for one of the rival families. So not willing to take the disrespect and tired of all the squabbling for power anyway, Pirelli orders a hit on all 13 members. They all get gunned down in cold blood, and all their bodies were piled into one hole in the middle of the desert in Nevada. The bodies would sit there undisturbed for years and years until one day that random patch of desert became the testing site of a gamma bomb. And now in present day, Pirelli's residing in New York City, where all of a sudden the 13 members that were killed all those years ago have melded into one body, now imbued with incredible strength, and all have one mission on their collective mind: revenge. Now, the gamma-powered Frankenstein monster was destroying businesses, trying to get information and find out where Pirelli lives now. What he found instead was New York's finest wall crawler, who, after getting tossed around a little bit in the fight, realizes he's fighting a small Hulk. But he was the only one strong enough to keep the monster at bay and actually deter him for a while. Now, the mob boss Pirelli has heard of all of this and knows that he's being hunted down, so he recruits the wall crawler for himself. He offers Pete $10,000 a day to protect him. Now, he's floored by this offer, but he wants to make sure that there's nothing illegal going on, and Pirelli tells him, "I wouldn't even ask you to do so much as litter." Webhead's just getting paid to do something he would be doing anyway if he were to happen to swing by and see this monster trying to kill Pirelli. Pirelli says the money is just to make sure that Spider-Man comes at the right time. Spidey, realizing he's going to have to go back to where all of this started to figure out exactly what's going on, gets flown in a private jet to Las Vegas. And despite having to protect himself from an extremely friendly stewardess, Spider-Man's enjoying the high life. The location of where these bodies were supposed to be buried and finds out it's now a military testing site. And using some of the DNA that he picked up from the last fight, realizes that the monster he's fighting, known as Digger, is actually 13 different people melded into one. The only thing holding them together is the gamma radiation. Spidey realizes that with his cells rejecting each other and never being able to go back to a human-like state and allowing them to rest, Digger is quickly running out of time. He goes to Pirelli to try and warn him because he knows this will make the monster desperate and knows that his attack is coming soon. Pete tells Pirelli he needs to take his daughter and leave the house, but it turns out he's too little too late as the monster's already there ready to kill. The monster doesn't just want to kill Pirelli, no, that wouldn't be enough. He's going after his daughter first. He wants him to see her die. And in desperation, Pirelli screams out that he's the one that ordered the hit, that he's the one that had all 13 of them killed. His quarrel isn't with his daughter, it's with him. Distracts him long enough for Pete to get the upper hand. He starts waylaying Digger and starts hitting him with everything he has. The scientist part of Pete has gotten him this far. He knows that all he has to do is wear him out. And it's time for his brain to get out of the way and let the spider take over. He's into him with everything he has, not giving him a chance to rest, not even for a second, as the monster's body is literally falling apart. Pete fights the monster out of the building, into the streets, and even down into the sewers. And Digger is teasing him, telling him it takes a certain kind of guy to finish the job, and he can tell Spidey ain't one of those people. And Spider-Man tells him, "Listen, you can't kill what's already dead. All I can do is undo the mistake that made you." Once again locking back in battle, Duke can get out again and making the monster expend every little bit of energy it had holding it together. Its tissue finally explodes, gives way, and all the gamma leaves its body. As Pete stands over the random assortment of limbs and tells it, "Go back to the void. Go back to 1957. Go to hell." Now, Pete goes back up topside, meets with the cops and his old buddy Lamont, assures them that everybody is safe, that nobody's in danger from that monster anymore. When Pirelli steps outside to berate the cops and tell them that they weren't doing their job properly, they have a little surprise for him. See, Pete asked Lamont if he could wear a wire to see if Pirelli would say something incriminating. And considering before when he was trying to distract Digger that he confessed to the murder of 13 people, and there's no statute of limitations on murder, Pirelli's getting the book thrown at him too. Pete tells Pirelli why he did this, that nobody kills anybody on his watch. The murders that he ordered is what led to all this destruction, and fixing the current problem was never going to be enough. It's time for Pirelli to pay up, and it's long past due. Now, the wall crawler has a question for Lamont. All this money that he's been paid for protection, is it any good? Is it legal? And Lamont tells him if Pirelli was to walk into a shop and buy a bagel, it's a legal transaction. If they could have proved any of the money that Pirelli had was illegal, they would have busted him on evasion years ago. So in this particular circumstance, Spidey needs to consider himself a bagel. He did nothing illegal, the check's good, and somebody will pay for it on tax day. Now, Pete could have used that money for anything. Hell, he struggled for money his whole adult life. Him and MJ just recently had got back together. He has tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars from this work he's been doing for Pirelli. What we see him doing is hanging a plaque on the side of the building, and MJ telling him how proud she is, and there's no better way he could have spent this money. As the two walk away from the plaque stating the future site of the Gwen Stacy Memorial Library.